Good evening. Evening, everyone. I will now call the Planning and Zoning Commission to order, and let's begin with the roll call with Commissioner Griezmann.
Darcy Bryson present. Cindy Greengold.
Kathleen Baralt,
Oh, Larry Brown.
Kelly Hahn.
and we will note that Commissioner Weaver as well as Commissioner Rutke are absent this evening. Thank you. If we would all now stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now before we begin, I just want to thank everybody, as always, for their service. And in the words of Albert Schweitzer, who said, "Every kind of service necessary to the public good becomes honorable by being necessary." So thank you for the work that you do, as well, not only to the commissioners, but to the commission clerk, as well as the town planner. We will now go to item number 3 for the approval of the June 26th Planning Commission agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? It is approved. Item number 4, which is the approval of the minutes of the May 22nd, 2024 Planning Commission meeting. Do I have a second?
Who's moving the
The chairman is
item?
moving. The chair. I think you're moving it, aren't you?
Yes.
She's moving it.
I'm
She's
sorry,
asking for a second. I'm assuming she's moving it.
moving it for approval.
Yeah,
Oh,
That's my middle.
all right, I'm now looking for approval of the minutes of the May 22nd, 2024 Planning Commission meeting. So,
I'll move approval.
all right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Again, none opposed. It is approved. Item number 5, public comment on any item on the agenda. There is no one present in the gallery. Commission Clerk, do we have any correspondence that has been submitted? All right. Then I will move on now to a new business. And the first order item is to nominate and elect a planning commission chair.
Madam Chair.
Vice Chair Greengold?
I have been very pleased with the way our meetings have been run, and I would therefore like to continue the good run we've had with you being in position with the first chair. So, Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate you again as chairwoman of our planning commission. So I nominate Chair Baralt to be our chairperson again.
Well, thank you. Do I have a second?
I defer to the first second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And now we will move to item number 2, nominate and elect a planning commission vice chair. And may I say that I too am very pleased
Nobody
with
else wants it, like I said.
the leadership that Vice Chair Greengold gives and her insight and experience. And I would like to nominate her to continue as vice chair.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Again, none opposed? Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Vice Chair.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's an honor. It's an honor. Exactly. You never know. Never know about the coups.
All right, now we will move. This is probably the most expeditiously we've moved in a while, so I will keep going. Item number 3, the request for a zoning amendment for 2955 Chesapeake Beach Road. And I will now ask the town planner to address this, as she has provided a memo in regards to this request. Has everybody seen the memo dated June 17th, 2024 from the town planner?
Yes.
Everybody's had an opportunity to read it?
Yes.
All right. If you would, Sarah?
So as you've read the memo, you know that we have had a request for a zoning text amendment. There are a lot of factors involved with this. The amendment request is for an RC parcel that is adjacent to the Richfield Station HOA to be zoned to match the Richfield Station HOA zoning and receive water and sewer connections and road connections, which that's not on us to give, but through Richfield Station, that's their proposal. So they would need approval from Richfield Station for those factors. Also, the lot is not subdivided, so it's an over 8 acre lot, and they would like to subdivide out 1 acre and have it rezoned. Now, if you look at on page 2 of the memo, you can see some of the environmental factors. My little red box is not to scale, but it's kind of close. So there are some steep slopes involved. There are wetlands involved, and there's also that sea level rise vulnerability involved.
What is the sea level rise based on?
This is mapping from DNR.
It's new.
It's new. So I use this Merlin, which is Maryland's environmental data. So it might be different from our data, but it's an easy kind of way to show you guys all the different factors concisely.
When is that? It says sea level rise, but next week, next year, this year?
Oh, it just is called a sea level rise vulnerability level layer. Yeah, I
I
can
mean,
pull it up.
if that's now, then that's in the critical area that we're talking about.
No, it's not in the critical area.
What is if sea level is rising to that point?
Commissioner Brown, if I may, can we hold our questions and until the town planner's presentation is done, and then we'll go in order with?
So just that's your mapping to kind of show you the site conditions. Then there's a zoning comparison between the RC, which is what the site is currently, and the RPC, which is the proposed new zoning. You can see that the minimum lot size changes and the housing density changes, as well as the minimum open space. So I also outlined the uses that would be allowed in the RPC that are not allowed in the RC.
That's on page 4.
That's on page 4. And so sort of to sum up, there are a lot of pieces here, right? The land is not subdivided. It is a forest. Because the request is for an acre, it is also covered by the Forest Conservation Ordinance, and the subdivision would be covered by the Forest Conservation Ordinance. Then there's the permissions they need from the HOA. So I don't think that this board can necessarily do a zoning text amendment, without a survey so that you can delineate the area that is not subdivided. But B, this is more of a question, is do you want to do a zoning text amendment when you're not sure that all the infrastructure needed to serve that zoning is going to be available? And then the last piece to think about is that the request is for an entire acre, and the minimum lot size for the requested zoning is 7,500 square feet, which means you can ultimately, these people are requesting 1 unit on that lot, but ultimately the zoning would allow 5 or more units on the lot. Could, not would, could. So this isn't an approval. This is more of a discussion, but I wanted you to know all those factors.
Can I start us off?
Just a minute. Do you have anything further?
I know there was mention of the ownership of the driveway access being unclear. I think that, and I have a Google map if you would like to look at it, I can hand it. So
Anything further?
that's all.
Okay. Commissioner Hahn, I'd like to start with Commissioner Brown if I could, and then we'll go to you. Commissioner Brown? Any,
Oh,
Questions?
This would require the town council to approve,
Correct. You,
because it's a zoning map change.
right, so the procedure would be that there would be a hearing, and then you would make a recommendation to the town council, and they would approve it based on your recommend, or disapprove it based on your recommendation. There are several factors still in play, like the ownership and all those other pieces as to whether it can actually go through that process yet. But I want you guys to be informed of what's happening.
Commissioner Hahn?
As a resident of Richfield Station, I have a couple of questions, and I don't know if you're going to be able to answer them. So according to our bylaws, I don't know that this is even allowed or feasible. And if it was something that we went before our bylaws, the bylaws require a majority vote for this to happen, and we will not get it. We can't even get votes now to meet the minimum requirements to make any changes historically. So I don't see that happening. But my question is, I know that someone has approached the HOA board and they were referred to our property management company, ACM. But I have not seen anything for a vote, for us to take a vote on this, for it to be approved. And I don't know that they've even gone to the Richfield Station lawyer to approach them. But where would that approval of Richfield Station fit in with this process? Because if we agree to it, and then it goes before the town council, and they agree to it, but then the HOA doesn't agree to it, then what happens?
Mhm. Yeah, so this is just a zoning change, right? So they're not necessarily conferred any rights to access to the HOA if the zoning was changed. There's nothing in the legislation that requires HOA, but we've been requiring HOA approval before we'll issue a permit. So I would think that as a party of interest, right, in the area, because all the parties, the neighbors need to be contacted, that the HOA's input and testimony on whether they would be able to receive that access would be considered by this board at a hearing and also the town council at a hearing.
Okay, so then my next question is, if anybody's done a site visit, there are 2 driveways on either side, and up the middle is grass. And my understanding is that's where they would like to put their driveway, but Richfield Station doesn't own that property. The developer owns that property. So where would possibly they put their driveway.
So I think they would have to purchase that property from Richfield Station to put their driveway in because
We don't own it. The developer
Oh,
owns
from
it.
from the developer, not from Richfield Station. But if you look at the rest of the site's topography, there's not really another way for them to gain access to the site other than through that location. So if they can't purchase that from the developer and get the access permissions from Richfield Station, they wouldn't have a way to access it.
And they haven't told you if they've purchased that part of the property yet?
With the way I guess I didn't realize that piece, right, that's showing up on my parcel map was not owned by the HOA. And they probably didn't realize that.
That piece of property has been very contentious because the developer owns it and the developer doesn't take care of it. He stopped cutting the grass on it. So the neighbors, the four neighbors started taking over. And then they said they wanted Richfield Station to take over and start cutting it. But we said it's not our property to be cutting it. But I believe right now Richfield Station is paying to have that plot cut because the developer is not cutting it.
Mhm.
So those are the questions I have right now. Thank you for answering them.
Commissioner Greisman?
We don't have any questions at this moment.
Vice Chair?
Thank you, Chair Brook. I've been doing this planning commission thing for a long time, and whenever there is any big deal like a zoning amendment request, the applicant usually shows up.
Interesting.
Well,
Were
this
they
isn't
told
really a
not to?
hearing. So it's not a hearing, it's more of a discussion.
Except that in the discussion, they could answer questions, they could be promoting their cause, they could, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why an applicant wants to come when they've gone to all the trouble of applying for this.
Mhm.
So I'm curious as to why nobody showed up on their behalf. But it seems to me that because this is 8 acres they supposedly own, that's a lot of property at stake here. I would think they'd be very curious about how this whole process works and, if they could, discuss it with us, whatnot, even though we're talking about 1 acre, I know, but, from knowing this area right in here and understanding its environmentally sensitive nature and realizing the topography as you look at as you're, looking at your little map here, it would be an extremely expensive piece of property to develop, number one. But number two, we've got so many issues as, Commissioner Hahn just referred to with the HOA and other situations. But my other question to you is when you said something about, let me see here, and I guess this is why I expected them to show up. You said that in your recommendation, I'm sorry.
I
Where's the
maybe should have
recommendation?
said that.
You said that, I have to go back, yeah, that staff would support the proposed rezoning on a smaller lot
Mhm.
that would have less impact, et cetera, on forested areas. Are you talking about in that red zone, you would make it a smaller area, or what are you suggesting there?
What I'm suggesting is that 1 acre allows them to develop at a density that is not compatible to the environmentally sensitive areas.
Mhm.
And if the planning commission wants to allow them to build a house on this property, they could allow it on, say, 7,500 square feet. But I wouldn't recommend allowing the acre because in 20 years, the acre could be more densely developed by a different property owner if the zoning was permitted on that larger spot. Now, no denial or approval is happening this evening,
Mhm.
but that I know that you like to have a recommendation from me.
Yes,
So I've been including one.
So you just wanted to include a recommendation, whether or not we were going to discuss it further. Okay, because I was trying to figure out what that detail meant. Was it like a 5,000 square foot? I mean, what were you talking as far as size, or was there?
I think it's a question for you guys to discuss. What density long-term are you okay with in this environmentally sensitive area? If you're okay with any density at all, right? So,
Thank you. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
I do have a question. May I ask it at this time? I was just curious, and this may not mean anything, but on the application, and I don't know if this kind of ticks something in my brain. It says the property owner information is Will Barger LLC, care of Baldus Realty, and the applicants are a different name. Do you know, it just kind of caught my eye what that relationship was, and it sort of made me think when there is an LLC and there's a realty company, and you're talking about if they get the whole acre, I think they could build up to 5 point something
mhm.
structures. That kind of gives me pause. Do you know anything about that relationship? And that might be why maybe no one showed up. I don't know.
My understanding is that the town is looking into the ownership and the ability to trigger a hearing. Like
Say that
whether-
again?
They're looking at the ownership, right? Because ownership is required in order to trigger the hearing. So they're trying to look into that
Okay.
ownership relationship.
Okay. That's interesting.
Can I ask one more question? I'm sorry. Another question. So when you apply, you do not have to check the ownership before the application comes forward? It seemed like that'd be one of the requirements of an application.
Probably we should have.
Would seem like it's wasting a lot of everybody's time if we don't have
Mhm.
those little details, but yeah.
I think also part of the piece of it, right, is that these, whether they own the property or don't own the property, what they want to know is what, on some level, if they're going to buy the property, what are their chances of being able to build a house on it? And so there's that piece.
Another question.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm finished. Thank you.
So my understanding is originally the developer that developed Richfield Station owned this property. And he sold it for $35,000. And I believe it was just bought for $75,000 within the last year or two.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, why did he sell that 8 acres that goes all the way to the back of Richfield Station and then all the way down behind Richfield Station sign and then along Route 4 and up, but didn't also sell the little piece of property that goes into Richfield Station to give them entrance, if you will, into the neighborhood? I'm just curious why it was done the way it was done. But nobody's here to answer that either.
Rhetorical, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like they sell a piece of property, but there is no egress to it. So how do they access it?
I don't know the answer to that.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
One last question. Is there any other way that they could access this other than Richfield Station?
Theoretically, right? Theoretically, they could try to get permission to, they would have to like build a bridge, right?
Like Richfield Station did to get into the neighborhood?
And that is expensive and very difficult to get permitted. So I don't think it is a practical, reasonable, or feasible access to the site. I think the only way to get access to the location that they're asking for rezoning for is through Richfield Station.
Okay. Sarah, I just have, I drove past the property today and I did see the, it's an interesting, I guess layout because there's the cul-de-sac and then after that, there's the 2 roads, the driveways for the 2 end properties and then there's just a grassy area right ahead.
Mhm.
So, when you were talking about if obviously, you made the recommendation that, if it was rezoned and that a property could be on it, it doesn't need to be an acre, because that would allow then further development subsequently and up to 5 other single-family homes.
Possibly more depending on configurations and.
So with the ownership, so if it was rezoned and the owner got the acre, they could then subdivide and sell that to allow when you're talking about the 5,
I don't think you could put single family. You think there would have to be some kind of townhome multifamily element because of access.
okay, but once it's rezoned and that on that acre has been rezoned, then there's the opportunity for the development of,
That's an allowable use in that zone, correct?
no, there is no way that this, you would be able to access it from 260 if they got.
I just want to look at the topography again.
Because if you go, when you come in Richfield Station, it's your first left.
Mhm.
That is, I think it's Oak
Oh.
Valley Drive,
Oak Ridge.
Oak Ridge Drive. And my GPS shows it off of 260, and would they ever be able to get access to that property via 260? I mean, if you have a lot of money.
If you have a lot of money. Yeah, the only thing there is that you have the wetlands, right? It isn't critical area, but you have these wetlands that if you're going to put an access road through, there's some level of filling, right? There's clearly whatever the year is, there's some sea level rise factor that has to be considered. And, if you had the money, could you get the permissions to access through there? Again, you're talking about not only going across there, but you're going up a very steep slope. And I think it would be rather difficult environmentally to get the permissions.
And so your recommendation from your, if we approve the request for the rezone, then next thing we can schedule hearing possible.
I think once the ownership is confirmed, and if you guys want to recommend this, right, then you would schedule that. Well, either way, once the ownership is confirmed, you would hold a public hearing, allow the public to speak, allow the developer to speak, and then you're either going to confirm or deny it. But this is also allows that information request.
This is
For them.
possibly Pandora's box.
Pandora's box by opening it. Well, it kind of allows them to say, I'm going to change if my ownership is worked out, I might change my request, not for an acre, to something that might be approved, rather than you all having to go through multiple public hearings while they bring you multiple different options. So.
No further questions? So at this point, we will, yes, vote to deny the request for approve.
I wouldn't necessarily vote, but maybe because you're not really denying it or approving it without a hearing. Maybe a recommendation that we could refer back, or if you don't want to give a recommendation, if you just think you would, if ownership is confirmed, let's go to public hearing, then we should try to schedule a public hearing once that's done.
All right, now it has been suggested that we would have the public hearing. So I guess the first thing we'll do is, I guess, make a recommendation that we hold a public hearing.
Okay.
Second.
Figure out to schedule it.
In conjunction.
Efficient.
Manner. So, first we want to- Whether we're presented for a public hearing. And so if we'll take a vote for the public hearing, all in favor of a public hearing?
Do we have a motion and a
Do we have a
second?
motion? Do we have, well, I'll make the motion to put this to a public hearing. And do I have a second?
So if ownership comes back confirmed, we'll have to schedule one. We won't have a choice, but for now, yes.
There are a lot of questions that haven't been answered. Need to be answered before we talk about it.
And I think we can communicate your questions back to them if the ownership is confirmed, so they can provide more information in the request.
In regards to the ownership, do we have a timeline on that?
I'm gonna look at the clerk. Do you know if they have
I
one?
don't know.
We don't know what the time, if there's time. So
Madam Chair, are we going to be in session in August, or will we be out of session in August like we were last year?
At this juncture, I expected that we would be in session in August, but if availability is an issue, Commissioner Clerk?
No.
Thank you. Commissioner Clerk, do you know that, right now we're scheduled to meet in August, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless someone does like we did last year and move to recess for August.
Does anybody right now, the commissioners who are present, have the intention to be here in August?
I do.
My, Madam Chair, the town council is dark in August, correct? And it seems like we took it off last August. If you were thinking of having it, we could possibly have a different time in August if you wanted to, but I I guess school does come back early, so maybe that isn't a factor of why you'd want to keep it, but I would recommend that we go dark in August. That's my recommendation. I would move that we decide to not have a meeting in August.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor of no meeting in August?
Aye.
I guess we need to have people for the meeting, so I guess
You'll be by yourself.
I'm a Gemini, so there's two of me. I'm not
Oh, there
worried.
you go. Oh, double trouble.
All right. No meeting in August. Okay, so in regards to then at this juncture, we'll wait till, I guess by July, this will be conveyed, hopefully it will be conveyed to us about the ownership
Mhm.
in regards to the property. So you do
So-
not need the planning and zoning to schedule the hearing, is that correct? You would go administratively and schedule the hearing?
So I would say that that probably if it's going to be a joint hearing, that I'm guessing the clerk or Madam Clerk, would you reach out and I don't know how that's scheduled when you try to get everyone's schedules together for a public hearing.
I'm trying to think.
It's based on, it's got to be posted for 15 days,
Right.
correct?
Yeah, it's
So
gotta be
it's also based on that. So, I mean, right now it's June 27th. So it can't be before July 15th, July 12th
July 10th is
is 15 days.
yeah, hold on a minute.
Is that 15 calendar days or
minute.
15? I think it's calendar
Hold on.
days.
Not to throw a wrench in, but I am unavailable that third week in July. So I won't be here. So it would have to go to the fourth week.
So it would be, and let me look.
The
The-
fourth week is the 24th, which is our meeting.
Mhm.
But we would need them to respond back to our comments, right? Like, can we send you our questions to have you have them answered?
We can do it that way, or I can just kind of type up what we discussed tonight in general and say, these are things that would need to be resolved before we can consider a hearing. And then if they resolve those things, then you'll move to a hearing. And if they don't, then you won't. Right?
Well, at this juncture,
Mhm.
July 24th is a planning and zoning regularly scheduled meeting. So unless we had, the ownership's been resolved, the questions by the commission have been addressed.
Mhm.
You're unavailable the week of July 15th.
Mhm.
So I would think we have to have that. We wouldn't forego our July meeting to have the public hearing, joint session.
Can you have it in conjunction? Can you have them at your meeting?
Pardon me?
I think you can have them at your meeting. Can you not?
So we would have the public hearing at our planning and zoning meeting along with the town council?
Or you can have your, because town council is going to be going, you can do it instead of doing a joint one. You could just do it at your meeting to get
On
your
the
piece done.
24th.
Right, on the
Okay.
24th.
Okay.
And then send it to council and they
Okay.
can do it at their meeting.
But they won't be in session after that
In
because
Sep-
they're out and
So they would do it in
August.
September.
they would do it in September.
So the town council, they meet on the fourth Thursday of the month? Third Thursday. So they meet on the 18th.
Mhm.
So we would have our public hearing after that, and then it would go to
To
September.
September.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, so is that our tentative schedule?
Well, you'd have to run it by the administrator to see.
That would be you. Would you bring, I mean, would you bring that up to,
Ms. Wall?
yes, share it with the town administrator that our dates for, our planning meeting is scheduled for July 24th. Depending on the ownership, that would allow the posting of hopefully the 15 days for at the meeting, and then if the questions get resolved by then.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I,
Rush there.
Pardon?
I said it's kind of rushed
A lot.
there.
it seems to me that we're kind of rushing this.
Mhm.
We don't have all the answers that we need to understand if we want it to go to a public hearing. As Commissioner Brown was saying, I think in order for us to determine if this is something that you can even can have a public hearing, we need to first determine quite a few things. Number one, ownership, but it goes beyond that. We've got a lot of questions to answer and better maps, better presentation. So I'm not even sure we're ready to have a public hearing in July, which means that we would then have to move it to September at best. But I don't see any reasonable option here except to wait until we get another presentation with all the answers if necessary, to see then if we want to go to a public hearing. Public hearing is a lot of effort, and I'm just not sure we're there yet. So I would opt to wait until we have another staff report that has all the, more conclusive answers.
Mhm.
So anyway, there's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay. Any further comment? So, at this juncture, planning and zoning will have their July meeting.
Mhm.
In the interim, ownership will be determined for the application for the rezoning. Based on that,
Mhm.
will planning and zoning be notified of the ownership? Or will that be determined at the July meeting?
We
I'm-
can notify you, Chair of the ownership, and also I think you really need a survey too before you can move forward on the hearing, because you can't change zoning on land without knowing what piece of land you're changing zoning.
And we would need to arrange that with the town administrator, or we would?
We would require that of the applicant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you as town planner just request that once, for example, after the ownership is determined, you would then say, you would request them to have a survey of the property?
Mhm.
Okay. And so after the ownership and the survey has taken place, I'm just trying to think of the way that would we submit, as in other instances where the commission members would have the opportunities to submit questions to me and on to you,
Mhm.
and then we would have them, you would present that, the response to those questions in a follow-up memo.
I think if we receive more information requested of the applicant, then it would make sense because I would be able to answer. Right. A lot of the questions the applicant has to answer. Have you been to Richfield Station? Have they approved your access request?
How are you going to access it?
How are you accessing it? So
When
Those
was the
questions
property
have to go.
acquired?
Hmm?
When was the property acquired?
that's a question to ask too. Or are you asking me, or you want me to ask them?
I'm at.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a question.
Yeah.
The answer.
I mean, we might even have more questions when you get your answers.
Well, that's true, but okay.
Okay. All right, then we will now move on to the annual report. Everybody has had the opportunity to look at the annual report document, which is part of your package, and read it.
I did. I have a question.
Okay, well, okay. Go ahead.
Am I overlooking it? Was number 4, there's no response to number 4, no yes or no?
Right,
Right. So number 4 says if
Yes.
if yes. So if number 3
Three
was
was
yes, then you would answer it. But the
Okay.
answer to number 3 was no.
I just want to verify. Okay.
I
that-
did that about 12 times when I was preparing.
That was are you paying attention as you read this document? Because I was like, wait a minute. But, okay. So everybody's had the opportunity to read the memo, the commissioners. Sarah, would you now speak to this document, please?
This is the annual report that you provide to the state. You have to approve it before we send it to the state. And once you approve it, then it will be sent to the state and to the town council. There wasn't a lot of activity this year because you had the moratorium, so that made it easy. Sorry.
Does anyone have questions? Commissioner Brown?
Have all planning commission members completed the Maryland Planning Commission Association training course?
Within 2023, yes.
I
Well,
just
just
took it
came
today,
on.
but this is for
This is asking
2023.
for 2023. And as of 2023, all the commissioners have completed the training. This is for the annual calendar year of 2023. Commissioner
I don't know.
Greisman,
I don't know. Board of Appeals, apparently you do.
Right. My understanding was yes, but I can double check it. But
Have all Board of Appeals members completed their training?
from 2023.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm only,
Right.
we spoke of
Right.
the planning and zoning. I can't speak to the Board of Appeals, but all commissioners, planning and zoning have completed the training
Mhm.
for calendar year 2023,
2023,
which is reflective of this report. As of today,
Mhm.
Commissioner
You guys.
Grace-
right.
Greisman,
Yeah,
Greisman,
also.
Bryce,
Mary
this is the
Sue.
first time.
Greisman, completed the Maryland training effective today. So
I should have my certificate sometime next week, I believe.
please bring that next meeting.
I'm going to have it framed and a copy for
Yes.
each of you.
So next year, the answer will also be yes.
Unless there's more,
Right.
another new commissioner.
That's true.
Then. But does anybody else have any further questions? All right, can we I'll make a motion to approve this document for the state, to send it to the state.
I'll second.
Any further discussion of that?
Yes, I'm just concerned that we don't know whether or not the Board of Appeals has taken it, and can we modify it to at least say with the exception of?
Well, I'm
From
sure the town planner, my understanding, she will verify.
I will verify, but my understanding
Okay.
was yes. I will double check that.
Okay.
After all, it is the report. The annual reporting document is from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Is that correct? It goes to the state.
Yes, it's from you to the state and to the town council.
Okay, so it's interesting, why is it, why do we also mention the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals members when this is an
Mhm.
annual report of the Planning and Zoning Commission?
Because they're approving zoning appeals, right?
I
So,
see.
Yeah,
Oh, be due to variances,
Right.
I see.
right.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. So, all in favor of sending the document forth to the state?
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you. All right, our next agenda item is the critical area ordinance. And this document has to be returned to the critical area council prior to the town council adoption. Is that correct?
So you want to submit it formally to critical area?
And then their recommendations come back,
Mhm.
and then we look at them, and then, no, they come back with their recommendations, and then it goes to the town council for approval.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think I'm pretty sure that it's going to critical area and town council. And I think there was discussion of having a joint public hearing on this, so you don't have to have two separate ones, but you could do two separate ones. You could do
Okay.
yours in July. again.
so has everybody had the opportunity to read this document? Okay. Sarah, would you?
So again, this has been kind of the back and forth with staff to get this to a place where they feel that when it goes formally before the planning commission, there will be few modifications recommended, or sorry, before the critical area commission, there will be a few recommendations back. So,
You're saying that there will be?
well, I mean, there's certain things, there should be fewer, right? One of the ones I know that's going to be a discussion and point has to do with the planting requirements for all development. And so we've had discussions about that, but that will probably be a comment coming back from the critical area. And so we just might want to explain that ahead of time as that is about the collective impacts of planting on sites. So when you're doing a planting on a small area, it has very little impact, right? So if you're just tearing up and replacing or extending a small impervious surface and you're planting one tree, it's very minimal, right? So they don't always require stormwater modifications for those small areas. But because of the small lots and the densities, Chesapeake Beach is requiring those so that the impacts of everyone planting are realized on a larger scale. So I wanted to explain that for the newer member. Just so you can see how the draft has evolved, sorry, there are two sort of sets of changes, right? There's the changes that you saw last time, which are in black ink, and they are all caps for additions, strike-throughs for deletions. Then there are the changes since last time after we met with critical area staff, and those ones are the same, all caps and strike-throughs, but they're in blue.
And the blue is
'Cause-
after you met with the staff of the CAC. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But I know some of you read the document for last time, so I didn't want to make you read changes twice. So, so I don't know. I mean, I think it's useful if you all want to ask, questions or comments on any of this, if you're find the changes acceptable, or if you want to discuss them. They're a little more. Some of them seem like, okay, we just sort of changed this. So you'll see the part I was talking about with the less than 250 on page 7. That's an addition. That will be a point of discussion. I guess the next change is on page 12.
Which one? Number 8 in the blue, is that what you just identified as there will be a discussion?
That's where they're saying,
Who's this? is
critical area
CAC?
commission is
Okay.
saying you're not having you can't have someone engineer a 10% reduction for less than 250 square feet. And what we're saying is, well, we would like them to plant, right, with the 10% rule, because that has a macro impact. Those micro plantings have a macro impact. I don't know if it's best for me to go through or for you guys to ask questions.
Well, I think you should go through your report, your memo first, and then if we have questions, then we'll go through.
Okay. I mean, the memo.
So is it easier for you as you go through for us to ask questions where you are when we might have a question, or is it simpler just to have you go through the document and then we hold our questions and ask? What is better for you?
I think it might be better, right, to ask the questions, because there may be sections that were changed that no one has any comments or concerns or questions on, and then we don't need to go over those because everyone's sort of okay with it.
So we'll ask questions as we go.
I think it might be better.
Okay.
My memo was just explaining how everything's laid out.
Then what I would like from the commissioners, if you ask to be recognized, so we just don't call out if you have a question regarding where we are upon the review of the document. Okay?
Okay, so your first changes are on page 7.
Number 8, is that what you're
No.
referring to?
Yeah, so that, well, there were changes to 4, 5, and 7, and then number 8 is the newest addition.
Okay.
Like,
Yes.
Mary Sue Greisman?
Mhm.
I just have a question on 8. It seems to me that there's a word missing, and I don't know if this is like the final version, but all development and redevelopment activities less than include practices. Shouldn't there be a word like must or shall? Seems to me there's a word missing before include.
Yes, it probably should say shall. Okay. Should I go to the next changes?
Yeah.
Before we leave this, are you leaving this area then? Or are you leaving?
Oh, does anyone have, are there more questions on
I
page
do
7?
have questions about this area. I mean, I know. I'm gonna, Madam Chair, may I have the floor?
Yes, you may.
I'm sorry. I know this was brought up probably last month, but somehow I'm still confused, and it's in this area, and it's with the number 5 up above. When it says all trees or shrubs that are removed shall be replaced at a rate of 1 per 1 for individuals, or 1 tree per 3 shrubs.
Mhm.
When you say for individuals, it almost implies that the next part is not for individuals. I mean, I'm just wondering, do we need the for individuals in there? It seems as though we're confusing that sentence by making the first part of it for individuals and the second part for groups or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
It doesn't make any sense to me. You see what I'm saying, on number 5?
I
All
don't
trees
think
or
it
shrubs
changes
that
the
are removed-
meaning to remove for the words for individuals.
Yeah, do we need that in there for any reason? It just seems cumbersome, and as as our Commissioner Brown has always said, keep it concise and precise and don't have any extra words in there, and I think that's how we should keep this. So so then can we eliminate for individuals?
Mhm.
Okay,
Right. Unless you're,
I don't think
agree.
it. yeah, I
Unless you're
think it's fine, but-
identifying, it does seem like 1 for 1 for individuals, and then we're gonna say something for people who are not individuals, but there isn't. So, then it would be 1 for 1 or 1 tree per 3 shrubs. What makes us go one or the other? I'm just curious.
It allows people some sort of flexibility. So if you move into your house and it has a bunch of shrubs and you'd really rather have a tree, you don't like those shrubs,
So it's just an option for them.
it gives you options. Yes.
So then the motion is we would eliminate 4 individuals, 1 for 1 or 1 tree per 3 shrubs. Is
So
that,
you're going to remove just the words for
For
individual. That's what
individuals.
I've done here,
okay,
and I think, I mean, but I think you can probably, as long as everyone is sort of in agreement
not have the
for
motion?
small stuff like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
can we then go back to number 8 then? Why do we even need number 8? Why is it different than number 7 necessarily? I mean, I know we've got this 10% thing going on, but
Mhm. This is kind of trying to address that comment ahead of time, right? So they're going to say, well, for 250 square feet, are you really going to make people look at do a study of the 10%? So that, we don't do that now. We kind of say, okay, this is the 10% rule. But this is kind of clarifying. If it's less than 250 square feet, what you're doing is planting or other on-site practices. So sometimes the practice is right now, your site is dumping water from a drain straight out into the road. And so you are adding to your driveway, and we are requesting that not a planting, that just that you redirect this water. Or your driveway is angling this way, angle it that way, so that the stormwater is on site, or straighten it out. So sometimes it's not planting, but it's because it's less than 250 square feet, we don't need to do a whole study. We're asking you to do this little thing that.
I
that's gonna
understand, but
help
do
a
you
little
see on number 7 how confusing it is? It says regardless of the total square footage. So now all of a sudden I'm going, okay, now any size lot, and then all of a sudden down here, then it specifies specifically 250 square feet.
Mhm.
So now it's making it more confusing because above you said, it seems to me like what we should do is anything above 250 square feet should have the 10% rule. Anything below, it doesn't need the 10, it needs to be more of a, just a good practices of planting and doing, the mitigation. But it just seems a little confusing with that, regardless of the total square footage in caps. Does that seem, am I the only one that finds that confusing?
No.
No.
Thank you, because it seems like we need to delineate a little bit more precisely.
Okay.
And I think it would be taking out regardless of the total square footage. It should say instead, all development and redevelopment activities over 250 square feet, right? Over 250 square feet or 251 square, I don't know, whatever, over 250 square feet, blah, blah, blah. And then the next one should be under 250 square feet, right? Isn't that how it should be to be more precise?
I think so.
The attorney should be helping me here. Yes?
Mhm.
No.
What do you, okay, then tell me what you think. What would
I'm
be a
not
better
going to
way?
help.
Oh,
I sort of thought he was going there.
police does this to me.
Thank you for asking.
We'll ask him again. Okay, so anyway, that would be my suggestion. Anything else that you think about as far as those two are concerned? 7 and 8?
So
I
greater
think that's
than,
fine.
So greater than 250 and less than 250. Okay?
That's a good
or
parallel.
less
There
than
you go.
249, less.
No, it's okay to say less than.
Yeah, I think
250
we
and
can,
greater than
yeah, that's
250,
right.
yeah. Yes.
By the way, if I may say, I did blue and green for my tabs, and look what happened here. She did blue and green.
If I went down the side, she was.
So, I mean, this is odd. It's very odd, but we did not copy each other. I just want you to know that. Anyway, there's that. Okay, we can continue.
I don't know what to
We
say.
can
Me
continue
too,
now.
but I did.
Well, the three of us didn't use any.
You didn't
tab,
do it.
so I
You
just
just
want to
didn't
note
read that.
that.
So there's that. I mean,
We just wrote notes.
you just write notes. Yeah, there you go.
Should I keep going in the document?
Yes.
So just on page 10, it's just a minor, so the person who reviewed it made some comments last time and then said, oh, actually, it is this other comment. So some of these changes are that. So that's what's happening on page 10. Page 11 is just changing development to land
Land
use. Page 12 is trying to create more restrictions around the percentage of the site that can be used.
May I be recognized?
Yes.
On page 12, it seems to me that there's another word missing. If you look
Uh-oh.
at the line 2, it says to family members, provided that no such conveyance and will result.
So nothing in section G shall be in any agricultural easement of the property impressed in such an easement to family members and that no such conveyment. You're right. I think something got deleted at some point along the line and the and did not get deleted with it. Yeah. All right. So then on page,
On D, can we go over D?
oh,
That's the blue.
right, on page 15.
On page 12, I'm sorry. We're on page 12, right?
Yes, we can.
Blue D,
Yes.
5D. I'm a little confused on any institutional, recreational, or educational use permitted by right or special exception in the RC district shall be allowed in the RCA limited to 15% of the site or 20,000 square feet, whichever is less.
Mhm.
Now, do we have to specify what that means? Do we understand that that doesn't mean that is or does it mean that that would allow an entire building that size? Or is it just the use of that area? In other words, that would include all the infrastructure, all the parking, all the, what does that actually mean? If somebody was just looking at it cold, if that was taken to court, how would you interpret that?
Oh, well, I'm not a lawyer, but you can say limited to 15% of the site or 20,000 square feet for all land use, right?
Or,
Whichever is less.
or,
It seems you copied that from somewhere because it's also in double I.
It was kind of
right. we do have it elsewhere.
it was the language that the critical area recommended that we put in both locations.
It's
at the
just not
last meeting.
precise enough. It should, for total, I would say total use would be 15, total use. I would say limited to 15% of the total use of the site. Isn't that how it's supposed to read?
15%.
Didn't this language come from CAC?
It did.
It actually
yes.
came,
Well,
I mean, well, anyway, we've redone it, so it must have been reinterpreted by CAC here.
so we can't, I think we can go back to the model ordinance
Yeah.
and be that precise. It's just that it was deleted entirely, right? So it was kind of if you're not going to do this, then do this. So let me pull up the model ordinance and read to you what it said. It may, but we should double check it before. we
Well,
go.
Exactly, it does.
Well, I think it's
Oh, we could say lot coverage.
It's
that's
in
the word I'm
general.
looking for.
15% of the site or 20,000, whichever is less, but that's determined. Who
Mhm.
determines that?
Oh, this is
You-
different from what we changed it from the model in general because we allow this and it's not not allowed necessarily elsewhere.
Oh, say that again, please.
I think we added this, any institutional, recreational and educational use permitted. It's not in the model.
So what is it
So
we're
we
trying to
added it.
say here? Are we trying to say that, let's just say that somebody comes along and wants to build a huge educational facility that could be 20,000 square feet. Do we want a 20,000 square foot building on, in this particular area, in the critical area? Is that something we want to do? 20,000 square feet is a huge building.
This came from that graph that we had, that chart, right? That when we went through that whole chart about uses.
Yeah.
That's where we remember, because I remember us discussing institutional, recreational, educational, and we were very specific with examples of what's an example of each one of those items, those facilities.
Maybe so it said limited to a lot coverage of 15% of the site or 20,000 square feet, whichever is less. And the reason that's because you have a big site, 15% could be even larger than that.
And you would, town planner, determine which 15% of the 20,000 is less? Who determines?
Well, they should submit a plan that complies with this, but certainly it's something we would check and make sure.
Which you would check to see, to determine which is less.
If these submitted, right, so whatever gets submitted, if it was, well, yes, it would be what is 15%, right?
And what is 20, is it less
Right.
than 20,000?
Right.
So can we include limited to 15% total use of the site? That would include parking and building and everything? That
And
would be
that's what we
total
would
use, so it'd
use
be total
lot
use. So-
coverage.
So we can add total use.
But I'm wondering if we want to, if actual lot coverage is more precise than total use.
Okay, so you want to use total lot coverage or
It's the same way-
Include infrastructure, accompanying infrastructure?
total everything? You're talking
Right, right.
infrastructure?
You want it, you want to actually see it written out, is that right?
Absolutely, because right now, the way I look at this, let's just say I'm a developer. I want to come in and maximize how much I'm going to develop, let's just say. Well, I want the 20,000 building, but then that doesn't include that doesn't include everything else that I want to add to. I mean, it doesn't necessarily say that the limited to 15% isn't just the building. I want everything, including the parking and the infrastructure included in that. But it doesn't specify that.
And that kind of goes to, oops, I'm about to put the wrong. So if you look at your districts and the dimensional requirements, right? It's
right.
called lot coverage.
Right.
In that part of the zoning ordinance, which is why, or actually it's called,
Lot?
it's
or
not
lot?
called, it's lot coverage, but also it's called minimum open space, right? Which is the opposite of the way it's written here, right? So it would be, if you wanted to go back to that way of writing, like if you look at the table for RC, your minimum open space requirement is 85%,
Right.
which is kind of like saying your
Yeah.
lot coverage is limited to 15%.
15%, right.
But what they're trying to say is that 20,000 square feet is a big building, right? And to allow 15% lot coverage on a site where you could build you could have 40,000 square feet of lot coverage would be allowed if you don't put that 20,000. So I think using the word lot coverage might address that.
So it would then read limited to 15%
To limited to a lot coverage
to a
of
lot,
15%
to a lot coverage
of.
of 15%. Okay. Okay, there you go. That's.
And I'll do that to 7 or F2 as well.
And then F2, yes, uh-huh.
So it's going to say lot coverage limited to 15% of the site or 20,000
Mhm.
square feet, whichever is less.
Right. Should I keep going?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So on page 15, apologies. I thought I put the adoption date in that will get fixed. And this is about them just wanting some guidance around septic systems, even though it's not really an issue for us. They want us to have this in here anyway.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Local program adoption date. What local program are we referring to?
It wants to know when you first adopted a critical area ordinance. And I've been working on digging that up. But I don't have the date yet, but I will.
So
make
it's
sure I
the
have
first critical area.
ordinance Chesapeake Beach ever adopted.
We really want another septic system in Chesapeake Beach.
And so this was my understanding of the feeling, right? And so I said, they don't want this, right? And they're saying that it may come up, and so you should have it in here. If you feel strongly that you want to take it back out, right, then we will take it back out. And just, you will know that this is one of the comments that's going to come back. It is your decision.
I've
So,
I just don't think we want another septic system in Chesapeake Beach.
Oh, yes.
So help me understand, if in the Highlands, some of them have septic systems and that septic system goes up. So they cannot replace that septic system? Is that what we're saying here? They can't replace it and now they're going to have to pay to connect up to town water and town sewer?
If we remove this, then that's what we're saying.
If we
Yes.
remove this, then they have to hook up to town
Public water.
public water. And if we leave it in here, then they can replace their own septic.
Yes.
It's not covered by grandfather.
No. That's critical area saying no. If you want people with existing septic to have this, you have to have this language.
Well, we'll get to grandfather later, but seems to me it is covered by grandfather.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Do we have any septic systems in the critical area, though? I don't think we do we?
I do not know
The
that.
Highlands is
town,
not critical. Is that
yes,
critical area?
Yeah, we
campground.
have septic
Oh, the
systems.
The campgrounds
in the
does have.
critical area.
septic-
The town, what, 5 years ago, people who were on septic, they then provided them, the town paid for their transition to public water. But I thought they had all been done. I thought definitely in the campgrounds that they've all gone to public water now.
I feel like, and I don't know if you remember this part of the meeting, but I feel like they were saying that it was possible there were areas, it was possible that some remain, and I know this isn't, but in any annexation future, you could bump into this issue, which I don't think is an issue right at this time. But again, this is kind of a decision for you all to make. But there may be impacted residents.
Curiosity, what's the cost? If you have a septic system and now you got to hook up to town water, what would that cost? And who would bear that expense?
So I do not know what that costs in Chesapeake Beach.
I think the owner now bears that cost. Before, like I said, the town, I know up in the campgrounds, they wanted to get everybody off septic. And so they offered, because they were on septic, and they said the town will pay this fee to convert you. But then after that, there was a window, if you didn't do it by such and such a date, then after that, you're on.
Oh, so there's maybe some people in the campgrounds that didn't convert. Is that what you're saying?
I believe, well,
Yeah.
up on B Street, I think they all converted.
Yeah. So, yeah, I do not know, because I think it depends a little bit.
But it certainly behooved them to have the town pay and go to public water.
I'm just thinking, you owned it and then you sold it and then you didn't do it. And then new person comes in and now they're in this situation that, oh, I bought septic and now I have to pay 20, 30, 40, whatever it is, $1,000 to change it and hook up to town. And it wasn't disclosed potentially when they sold the property.
I don't know. I do believe that everybody had to, in the campgrounds had to convert because they weren't, and they wanted them. They didn't want the septic because I think all those properties up there now, you have to have there's drainage on your property and you cannot cover it. Like if you want to pave, you can't do it. So
Mhm.
I think it was all converted, but I can't swear to it.
Right.
Is there any problem with leaving it in? Can we just leave it in, just to cover our bases so it
Mhm.
doesn't come back?
Yeah.
Would you mind, Commissioner Brown, if we left it in?
That's fine.
We can move on.
All right. Our next is on page 17. And we addressed that as the public purposes are just tackled differently.
Number 6 is that
Handled,
what-
the word is handled differently on page 6. So they asked us to delete that.
Number 6, the strike through.
Mhm.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
do we really want to eliminate that opportunity for us if we want to have, we have a little area right by the Baya restaurant
Mhm.
that has turf right up to, pretty much up to that riffraff there, that riffraff, what do you call it? I don't.
Riprap, not riffraff.
Whatever, the riffraff, to me, it's all riffraff. We need, we were talking about, maybe making that into a little mini park,
They've made it into.
or it is a little mini park, but you don't want to just eliminate that turf. That is public
So
property.
it's new lawn or turf,
Okay.
not existing.
But it seems confusing. It says new lawn or turf in the buffer, but let's just say it all died out and then you want to replace it 5 years down the road. Could we not replace it? And it would be considered new turf at that point. I'm just saying it.
No, it's not new then. It's not new. It's replaced. Right. You know what I mean? It's not, you already have turf. So you're not adding turf.
We're not creating.
Almost the entire waterfront has a lawn or turf on it. So
Right.
what is this referring to?
Public purpose, he says.
So you can't,
I make a motion to delete it.
Delete
Number six
the
entirely.
deletion or what do you mean? Take out the entire number 6?
Yeah,
What is your reasoning?
because the entire waterfront is already turf or, so
It's duplicate.
Complicated.
yeah, what
The existing.
is it referring to?
Complicates things if we keep it in there, I have to admit.
I'm just going to, this was something they were kind of like, that's got to change. This has to be like this. So that will be a comment. You can,
Fine.
but I'm just letting you know that will be a comment that comes down from the commission.
You mean by the CAC?
Right. And that's
Yeah.
fine. I just want you to be aware of what they were firm on.
Well, if they're going to have heartburn over it, I think we should just leave it.
I think Commissioner Brown has a great idea. If you eliminate it, they'll never know it's missing.
Oh, my God.
Because I just think it complicates a lot. I mean, if it's it's supposed to be a public purpose,
What's the reasoning that CAC wants it?
They don't want any new lawn or turf creation.
And they want it specifically known that they don't want
There's no
that.
new, right. It's not, you can't maintain or keep your existing lawn or turf. It's nothing new can be added.
In Calvert County where there's long coasts, some is turf, some is not, I can understand it, but here, the entire waterfront is a lawn or turf, so I don't know what it means. What it applies to.
When you say all, you mean all along the waterfront? Through the campgrounds, everything?
Buffer isn't just the waterfront though,
right.
but I don't know specifically what it applies to, but there are probably some areas that it could apply to. Like on the north side, I think, potentially. Yeah.
So is there a second to my motion?
Did you made a motion? I will second your motion to remove number 6.
Any further discussion? Well, I just want to comment that I think that the CAC, I think their perspective is for protection, and I think, and safeguards, and obviously they have inserted this to prevent the installation or cultivation of new lawn, and they feel, obviously, if this has already been discussed with the town planner, they feel it's important. So I just, when we don't know or cannot speak to areas that possibly this applies because we're not cognizant of it, I just don't think we should just remove it because it might not be as clear. Yes.
If I may, I'm in agreement with you because if, as you're saying, well, we don't really need it because everything is already established grass, then leaving it in does not hurt you. It doesn't change that status, but it does protect you if there are places where we are not cognizant now that could then be new. So I think that it should remain.
So if you take your lawn out, as somebody did recently near me, and then replace it with a new lawn, you've now cultivated a new lawn.
No, because
Over-
it already existed. Am I right, Ms. Franklin?
Well.
It doesn't
in
say
some-
that, though.
When you want it to be
Cultivation of a new lawn.
grandfathered, it's grandfathered, but when you don't want it to be
Exactly.
grandfathered, it's not grandfathered.
If,
So that's the confusing part.
sorry, so it's not a grandfathering, if it's lawn, so say someone took out their lawn and put in grasses, shrubs, trees,
Just
then.
grasses, we're talking lawn and turf.
Right. Well, I'm saying, say if someone did that, took out their lawn, put in grasses, shrub trees, did all these plantings. Now you as the new homeowner cannot come back in and remove all that and turn it into lawn. That is correct. But if it is existing lawn and turf and you just need to replace it for maintenance, that is not new. It's existing. So that's the,
When you change it
when you change its,
from what it was,
Structure.
it becomes new.
yes, intrinsic nature. That's great phrase.
Thank you.
I don't know what intrinsic nature is. Forgive me. Is that a legal term?
It's not really, but when you change it, because there are areas in the buffer, right? Homes in the buffer who, as they have done development, they have done plantings in that zone shoreward of their house. There was actually a house that was making some changes, and I said, you're going to need to do mitigation in the shoreward side of the house. And then I looked at the shoreward side of their house and it was completely mitigated. So if someone else comes in and buys that house, they cannot remove all that mitigation and planting and put in turf. That's what this says. You can't replace a mitigated planted area, buffer area, with grass.
Would it make things more complicated? Maybe, but if there were an example or somehow it made clearer what types of things, and like it could be examples, include but not limited to the following. Something that would give people an understanding of what is not allowed or what is permitted.
And you can replace with the like. And that's it.
Right.
Problem is depending on where you are, if you have animals that continually walk by and urinate on shrubs, and that shrub, no matter what you do, continues to die because of that, then you run into a problem.
But that's existing.
You've got a small shrub that has died, so you put a piece of sod there, and now you've violated this commandment.
Right, because you've not replaced it with what
the
it
light.
had. Right.
On that scale, right, it seems if you have a whole row of shrubs, right?
No,
When you're
you got
talking about
one
one shrub, it's almost like not really quite hitting the level of regulation.
What- Shouldn't that be made clear? So that
Mhm.
people are on notice of,
Well, I don't think we should list, I mean, there's, examples that I think we're making this a lot more complex than it needs to be. But
something that kind of fleshes it out a little bit. I'm not, and that way would address the concern around.
Well, we're already at 49 pages. I just think that, if somebody if this applies to somebody, then they can speak more specifically about the violation and how that, but I think in Sarah's instance where she said, replacing one shrub doesn't rise to the level of this. If they replace the whole row of them, that's something different. But I don't think, the shrub police are gonna come out. I think, as I said, I just feel like this language was put in there by the CAC, and I think it's for protection. And in agreement with your point, Commissioner Graceman, is that there are areas that we might not know. And if it doesn't apply, then people aren't impacted. But if it applies and we just don't know, then by eliminating it, I don't think it's, no harm, no foul, just take it out and they won't know. I don't think that's good. But I think if there's no further discussion, there's been a motion, it's been seconded, we should vote. If we're not in agreement here.
I can offer a compromise if you want.
Okay.
But you could say the installation or cultivation of new lawn or turf in the buffer greater than 10 square feet. That addresses that concern.
Oh, God. Now we've got into the tense.
We have to get our own.
Sorry.
That doesn't.
I'm not
help.
trying to overly complicate, but that addresses the concern that's been raised. So that might be a compromise.
Realistically, 10 square feet would be like the dais here to here, correct?
It's your shrub. I didn't mean to complicate. I was suggesting a compromise.
I think that gets you
The
closer.
motion, there's a motion on the floor, and if there's no further discussion.
Let's
then
vote.
we Vote on it.
All in favor,
Moving number 6.
say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
No,
Move on.
No,
three
the
to
motion,
remove.
no, the
And
motion,
Stand.
the motion was, I thought you voted for
I
it.
did, I voted,
Takes four people.
Oh, I guess we
Quorum.
are on a quorum basis. We do need.
Oh,
Okay.
all right, so moving on.
Okay, so we're on page 19.
But if everything that we want to change here has to go back through the commission and they'll oppose it, then why are we even reviewing it? And they've already gone through it once. They put their changes in, then why don't we just forward it on?
So some of the changes that are recommended in here were recommended. Some of the changes were, if you don't put that back in, the whole commission is going to tell you, you need to put that back in. And
So some of the changes are our changes and they don't have heartburn over them yet.
like the 20,000 square feet, that they
They're-
don't,
they're
that
fine.
wasn't going to be, that's a recommendation. But the turf one was one of the ones that they said, you're going to have to put this, you have to do this, or it's going to be a problem at that level. But you can make those change and then get that comment from the critical area commission. That is for,
And you'll tell us which ones we can change.
you absolutely can change all of them. I'm just telling you which ones they said, if you change this, you are going to
You'll
hear
tell-
from.
You'll tell us when we get.
I'll tell you as we get to them. Yeah. So a lot of what's happening here with fee in lieu and these additions,
Page 19, is that right? Is that where you are?
Mhm.
Okay.
is related to the fact that more
Mess.
it's related to the requirements of the program and the model ordinance requirements and the fact that because of the higher levels of mitigation, there will probably be fee in lieu collected, right, on certain small sites. So this is just kind of pull in model. They've asked us to pull in some of the model ordinance regulations.
So you're saying A, B, C, D,
Yeah.
1 and 2, the commission wants this back in.
ABC. Right.
Oh.
Well, it's just kind of,
COC.
so
Yes.
because it's fee in lieu and planting, normally you're not really collecting a lot of fee in lieu, but because the mitigation requirement has been increased in this version of the critical area ordinance, there are going to be sites that cannot fully mitigate on site, so that a portion of their mitigation will have to be fee in lieu.
Right.
And the requirements of a fee in lieu program, right, are that they have to be held separate and not in the general fund. That only 20% can be used for administrative costs, and that they have to be used, that money has to be used for these following things. So that's requirements of the critical area program. And so they wanted that to go back in there. And so all of this is kind of just matching with the model per the request.
Chairman,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
you're all
Number
right.
one needs to have a rewrite of something here. First of all, we have, as you can see, over 40 gazillion square feet at the very bottom there. I don't even know what number that is, but
Oh, we
anyway,
got an extra zero in
if
there.
you have, okay, so if you start out, you,
400,000.
It's
we don't know
40,
what-
it's 40,000.
I don't know what it is,
happened
but
to my
anyway.
zero.
Okay, so to me, it's written very confusingly. You have the word "that" in there that I'm not sure that needs to be in there. Fees in lieu shall be collected at the rate per square foot if required mitigation that cannot be satisfied fully on site through planting or offsets at the rate per square foot shall be. Okay, let's just redo all of this because it's just so wordy and so
Well,
confusing.
the strike through is a strike through.
It should read, fees in lieu shall be collected if required mitigation that cannot be satisfied fully on site through planting or offsets at the rate per square foot for properties under 40,000 square feet and $10 for properties over 40,000 square feet.
It's just missing an of in front of the $5.
Well,
Oh.
Yeah.
Square foot of $5?
At the rate per square foot of
Shall be collected.
$5 for that. I was just missing that one word.
That's right. That's what I was thinking too, is that the fee should be separated out. We shouldn't just have one long run-on sentence here. We should have the fees separated out so that for properties 40,000 square feet and, lower, it's $5. For, properties over 40,000 square, 40,000, no, 40,000 square
40,000. There's an
Oh my
extra
God.
zero.
it should be $10. And we should also indicate that it's only for the areas that weren't mitigated. There's no place in here that really says it's only for the area that's not mitigated. Because when I read it, it looks like you're charging for the entire size property. So in other words, are you charging $10 for 40,000 square feet? Or are you just charging $10 for the unmitigated area? You're just charging for the unmitigated area, correct?
So when we discussed this in fee and lieu, you all kind of decided that 40,000 square feet, if the property is 40,000 square feet
Mhm.
or less, that it was going to be $5. And if the property is 40,000.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying, shouldn't we include in there that you're only going to be charged for the area that's unmitigated? Because right now it's unclear. If somebody's just coming in here going, oh, I'm going to pay all this for 40, for the entire lot, we should indicate that it's only for the area that's not been mitigated, right?
That's what the.
Where is that
So
located?
fee and lieu shall be collected if required mitigation that cannot be fully satisfied on site through planning or offsets, right? So it's just the required mitigation and the rate.
But doesn't that indicate that they don't have to mitigate any of it? I mean, I don't, to me, the problem with fees in lieu is that people are going to say, oh, I don't need to mitigate anything. I can just go ahead and pay it all. I want them to understand that, okay, they mitigate as much as they can, and the little segment that they can't finish or they can't mitigate,
Mhm.
they get charged for.
Mhm.
But I don't read that. I don't read that as being that. Am I wrong? I don't know, maybe it's just the way I read it. But I think, as we were talking here, we should separate how much the different size properties are and how much each one costs. We should put a period at the end of, should be fully satisfied on-site through planning or offsets. The rate is 5, and then start a new sentence, because right now it is so wordy, it's getting confusing. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
If I may?
You may.
Thank you. Perhaps where it says G, fees in lieu of planting,
Mhm.
applicable when mitigation is futile, or there's no, you cannot mitigate. Just something in there so that it's clear that this is only for that portion which does not lend itself to mitigation. Is that what you're kind of?
That's what I'm
wanting to say?
trying to say. But I'm trying to figure out why, if you have a 40,000 square foot lot, you can't mitigate all of it. I don't understand that at all.
Because maybe they don't have an area that,
seems-
I mean, depending on how many trees they're required, maybe they can't place them all there. So they have to do as many as they can, and then they go on to another site in the town.
This was you all directed.
I
this
know, I'm just
paragraph.
I'm just thinking out loud. I know, I'm just talking out loud, but
So
anyway.
we're revisiting.
Just want to make that clearer and make it more precise so that somebody doesn't think they're
Right.
paying for the entire lot. Because they're only paying for the area that's not being mitigated, correct? That cannot be mitigated, right? Is that correct?
What
I'm not getting an
I
answer.
hear what you're saying, right? So if required mitigation that cannot be satisfied fully on site through planting or offsets at the rate.
Because when you say
Hold
at the
on.
rate per, it looks like you're,
So Sarah, was this language, we changed this language previously?
So you dictated this language.
And what was it before? I'm vehemently opposed to us revisiting language that's already been changed, because the more we look at this, we never put things to bed. If we have already directed Sarah to revise this, I just don't think we should revisit it again. Every time, we
Except that-
throw it up in the air again, then we think, well, what about this? What about this? This is not a good pattern for us. We never get through anything.
it's true, except that when you see that there could be a lot of misunderstanding, if it's not clear, I don't think it's something that should go into our code. And this is going to go into our code, and we're responsible for it. And I think it should be as clear and precise as possible. It looks like we have a bunch of marbles in our mouth when we're because if I'm a little guy who's got a little tiny yard, I'm not going to say anything because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't mitigate and I got to pay all this money. So I just want it to be clear that they don't have to pay for the entire.
First of all, if you're a
Square
little
footage.
guy, I doubt that you're really even looking at this. But I think, and I understand this, but this is like looking at IRS code, that every time we look at it, we have a revision to it. And there's just a place where, It,
We had to correct 40,000. I mean, we had to do
I
that.
understand that, but
Right.
correcting 40,000 is not rewriting this again. And this is where we get into this issue where we just have to put things period and move on.
Right, but with all due respect, some of it was just recently changed. That's a strike through that was just done, so we had to revisit this. That is new, right? Isn't that is that not
It-
blue?
So they asked us to move at the rate of square foot from where it was to where it is. So that was, they just requested that change. The blue.
Right, so
in the
this is
blue.
new to us. So this is not something that we're revisiting. We're looking at it for the first time, actually. So, and I think it has, um, I don't know. Am I the only one here that thinks that should be written more? How did you rewrite it?
Well, I would just say that I wasn't here when it was originally, I didn't know what I was revisiting, not revisiting. It's the first time I read all this, but I totally understand not wanting to revisit something to death. But at the same time, if it's internally incohesive, I don't know you can let it stand and it be your work.
Yeah.
Just a comment, an A, we have two thes. May not revert to the.
Right. Mhm.
You see that's there?
Yes.
Okay.
And if I might, if we're going down, okay, we didn't finish one then. Are we going to just leave it then? Okay, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to leave it, that's okay. But if you want to go down to 1A, I think when it says fees in lieu money shall be collected and held in a special fund, which may not revert to the town's general fund, I think we need to add to that or used for any other purpose other than listed in these numbers below. Because just saying a general fund, it could be another fund that the town sets up. It could be a pension fund. It could be any. So I think we need to be clear on where these monies need to be used, and it should be used precisely for this purpose. And unless we specify more appropriately, so it says fees in lieu money shall be collected and held in a special fund, which may not revert to the town's general fund. And I think we should add something or used for any other purpose other than listed in C1 and 2. Let's see, is it C1 and 2? Yeah, C1 and 2. I would like to include that
But-
as a specification.
So C dictates how the money is used. So A just dictates that it can't go in the general fund. B dictates what portion can use for administrative, and then C dictates how the rest of it has to be used.
It's okay.
Okay, so long as there is not an opportunity for the money to be diverted off into a
No.
different fund.
It says held in a special fund.
Right, but is that, okay,
And
all right.
if I might, and the thing is that even if it was held in another fund, the funds would have to be used for these purposes. So that I think that you're worried about being put in a pension fund or something, it still would not be able to be used for a pension. It would have to be used for the purposes enumerated here. I think that protects the money.
Okay, I'm fine if that's what y'all think. You can tell how much I trust everybody and everybody left, what would happen, I don't know. Do we need to include the term town of Chesapeake Beach when it comes to, where was I going to put town of Chesapeake Beach? I guess it's implied that it's this town and not another town.
Well, in C2, it says between the town of Chesapeake Beach and the Critical Area Commission.
But it doesn't, but in the top, it says the town's general fund, but it doesn't say this town's, but I'm assuming that when we use the word town, it means this town.
Yes.
Isn't that at the beginning of the document that town refers to
That's what I'm, I want to make sure that that means this town. Okay. Because there was some document that said that fees in lieu programs could be used in Anne Arundel County. It could be all the way up and down. So that's why I was concerned about this, because I have read a document that stated that some of the fees in lieu went outside the town. That's why I was concerned about it. And
Madam
was-
Chair, it's on page 1A. The goals of the town of Chesapeake Beach Town Critical Area Program are to accomplish the following. So we're covered.
Thank you.
So a lot of the reason that the black is in capitals because it was just being moved from one section to another. So the next place where we have changes, you see 20's got the tree replacement plan added.
What page are you on now, Sarah?
Sorry, on page 20, you're in B, C 2. And it just requiring a tree replacement plan to go with that mitigation or cutting of clearing of trees.
Yes.
I'm not sure if there was an extra C or not under B1A1. I'm sorry, A2, that is part of a local program approved by the CBCAC. Is that Atlantic Coastal Bays Critical Area Commission? Is that what that extra C is?
So it's actually the CB is supposed to come off, and I thought I cleared all those, but I didn't. They
Okay.
asked us to change it to CAC.
Thank you.
And then on page 21, we're just changing impervious surface to lot coverage. Same on page 22. Page 26, it's just fixing subsections as stuff got added and shifted around, and that lot coverage change. Oh, sorry.
I apologize. On page 22, under new development, a development activity that has place on a property with, and it's capital A. Is it supposed to be capital A or small a?
It's a capital A because there wasn't an A there before. And so so it's a change. The A was missing before. I added an A, and so I made it capital.
But it will be uncapitalized. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so we're on page, let's see. Okay, so our next changes are coming in under water dependent facilities on
needed
page
that, yes.
30.
Absolutely.
Where are you, Sarah?
We're on page 30.
Mhm.
So on page 27, you have that 40,000 thing going in again. On 27.
Oh, okay. I will grab that.
400,000.
Yeah, I got an extra 0.
That's in B.
So a lot of this is, wanting to bring in the critical area, wanting to bring in specific elements of page 30, and it goes on to 31.
I do apologize. Then this is very de minimis, but on page 29, 2A, the FIDS, which Forest Interior Dwelling Spaces,
Species.
it's not kind of in a parens like the other ones are to explain what the abbreviation is.
We'll
And I
do that.
think it should be included.
On page 29.3, there's an extra space on the very first line after by.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Oh, DNR.
And all the there's little formatting issues too that got messed up as I added the model ordinance back in. So when we're on 30, we're looking at the changes that were requested to go back to matching in the critical area ordinance. And the one that was a sort of firm, this is going to be an issue if you don't put it back in, is for with regard to the placement of dredged material in the buffer portion.
I do have a comment on page 30, A2A2. I guess I understand that when you have facility under F of this chapter,
Mhm.
or that's to tell you to change, it's not going to be capitalized.
Right.
Or-
Well, the F may or may not be capitalized depending on which F it's referring to, and I
But
will check.
You mean
But
the
the
or?
or, I'm talking about the or. The word
Right,
or.
it wasn't there before. So
Okay,
anything capitalized
Okay.
wasn't there before.
okay, and
Right.
in terms of a sentence, should there be a period after the word
It maybe
chapter?
should be a comma.
Pardon me? It will
It
be a
should
comma?
facility under this comma, or maybe it's not a comma. I will grammar it.
Thank you.
Grammar and the all caps don't always get along.
Great, okay, I understand, thank you.
Right, so then that goes on to page 31, where you have your, more planning for changes. 32, again, this is like, this whole section is more matching. There were sections they requested. We match back to the model ordinance. Then we get to page 36, just some little changes as to how that text is around the growth allocation. They wanted to add the original allocation in there. 38. Amendments for just that's a notification piece to the critical area. And they also just asked that we not kind of define clustered in the section, just call it clustered. Page 39, also model ordinance change. Page 40, I've got to
If I
deal with
may?
my, sorry.
Ms. Franklin, so on page 39,
Mhm.
Under B,
Mhm.
where it says, I was confused, should the word "and" be there
Yeah,
under B?
it probably doesn't need to be there under any of them. It's a model ordinance versus how we wrote it,
Okay,
sort of
all right.
quirk.
And just here, the reason is because in law, you know that the difference between using a comma or the word "and" or could mean billions of dollars. So I'm trained. And so I apologize. I'm not trying to rewrite, but I'm simply making sure that.
Well, I don't know, the way I learned it, when you've got these semicolons, they're all like A's a semicolon, B's a
Yeah.
semicolon, C's a semicolon, and except for the last one. So C would be semicolon and then D would have the benefit. I've never seen it with the and, as you go down.
I've seen it with the "and," except I don't think it belongs in B, but that's.
Right, I don't
Right,
think
it
it
was-
belongs
they
in
had them
B. It
strike it
should
out
be
of B,
semicolon, semicolon. The one before the last one should be semicolon and then the last one is the period.
Right. That's how it is actually set up with the strike through on the B. So,
Yeah, because that's how it is with then 5. You've got, yeah, because 4 has a semicolon, 5 has a semicolon, 6 semicolon, 7 is the semicolon, the end, and then it ends with the 8.
Mhm.
Period. Not that we like traveling in the weeds, but we're.
Go in the gutter.
So we get to 40, which is just identifying the grandfathered lots with the our local program date. 41. So
All right, not the
gotta go.
pirate R. What was the,
So on 41, not to get off, but that will come back to this other separate document. So then we can
Oh,
keep
gotcha.
going through this document to page 44 and 45. This is straight from the model ordinance. They requested that we include this language and it has been added.
just note on, there's an extra space under B, comprehensive review after necessary. I think
Oh,
that's-
yep, I see it.
Yep.
Mhm.
We're on page
40 and
44,
40.
under B, comprehensive review, where it says any necessary, there's 2 spaces before amendments.
If I might, on page 43,
Mhm.
B, 1,
Did I miss one?
pardon me?
Oh, no. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
It seems like there should be something before the word minor. Or just missing an article.
If the project meets and is. Mm.
Well, if in a planning world, it doesn't need it, then I defer.
Yeah, I mean, you could, but also it doesn't need to,
Okay,
right?
I'm fine accepting that.
Okay. Then in enforcement, there's another big section that they asked get added in.
What page are you on?
Oh, sorry. If we go to page 47 so there's an,
How about on page 44?
okay.
We have to review this every 4 years. And then we have to do a comprehensive review every 6 years.
That, right. So that's the requirement. Now,
No, it's not happening. It's just not happening.
so yes, I mean, I hear what you're saying. It's just,
You can put it in here, but it's it ain't happening.
We add, the town council shall try to review and propose any necessary changes.
Or this is practicable.
This language is from CAC requirement.
I'm pretty sure that's what the legal requirement is.
Well, I'm sure if the town doesn't do it, the CAC will respond to the town and remind them. I mean, just like the comprehensive plan was late.
Yeah.
I think that generally there's right, the law and the requirements.
I mean,
and
how
there is-
old was the last one?
I think the last one was overdue, right? It's
I know it was overdue,
Right.
but how long was it over?
6 years.
Like 10 or 15 years.
Oh,
So
maybe-
we can all aim to do better.
Yeah. Well, maybe some jurisdictions can get this done in 4 to 6, but
Mhm.
I,
I think critical area commission, like they aren't, they do understand and they are trying to work and make sure that the program is working for you all. All that said, new legislation just passed on the requirements of the critical area program in the last session. And they are going to be working on recommendations and all of that. And there probably will be a deadline for incorporating those amendment pieces. But none of that information is coming out because the law doesn't even take effect until October. So it'll be a while before that comes.
okay.
you do realize
Mhm.
that Anne Arundel County doesn't have one of these.
I'm aware
And,
of the
and North
law
Beach,
and the.
North Beach doesn't have one of these. And neither does Calvert County
Use the
have
model.
one of these. So we're really doing,
You're doing excellent. You're doing a great
Yeah.
job.
well,
Y'all should pat yourself on the
that's your opinion. I don't think it's excellent. I think it's way over the top.
All right, can we move on?
Yes. So we're on page 47. And again, this was kind of please put this directly in the critical area. We really want you to. And I looked at it and I was like, all right, fine.
You're referring to section F on page 47?
Section F, G, H, I, J, K, and I missed L when I made their addition. That's the only reason that's in blue. So they just wanted us to add it directly in here so they could see it in its relation to the critical area program specifically.
Okay.
So generally, when they wanted something in that ordinance, I put it in that ordinance. But because the Board of Appeals has its own neat little tidy section that applies only to it, and that probably makes it easy for the Board of Appeals to see and understand what it needs to do, I actually went through and made the changes they requested on variances within the section of the code, Chesapeake Beach Code, related to variances rather than put it back into this document. So those changes
So
begin.
you put that
on-
language into the Board of Appeals.
Right. And apparently I left off page numbers, but it is. on-
Yes, I was grateful that it's
Sorry.
only a, 14-page document and not 800, no, I'm sorry, it's a 12-page document. I've had a 800-page document that somebody did that, which was a nightmare.
So it is functionally, it's page 5, if you went ahead and figured the numbers. It's the third page where you start to see,
And it starts with B,
it
right?
starts with.
It is not sufficient
for,
proof of hardship to show. Is that it?
the change is going to start you're on. So in the document, it's letter F, powers and duties regarding variances. And then number 4 is where you start to see changes because this section of the variance and Board of Appeals procedures applies to critical area. And
What page?
so it's your third sheet of paper.
Your last packet.
Oh,
Amendments to the Article
Article
8, Planning Commission and Board of Appeals, 290 dash, okay.
flip 2 pages.
So you're saying page 1, page 2, page 3, where it starts commission at the top, must,
No,
okay?
it starts, you're right. It starts B, it is not sufficient, but that's not where the change is.
Okay, right.
Right.
I just
Okay.
wanted to make
Sorry, I
sure.
thought,
Okay,
yes.
so then
I'm
you're,
sorry, I misunderstood.
okay, so it starts B,
Mhm.
it is not sufficient, and where are you?
So we're going to
directing
be
us
in number
to?
4. So we start to see
Oh,
criteria is crossed off and replaced with the word standards.
mhm.
We are removing this first section,
A,
right? A. So this thing that says B is actually A, but I could not make my computer agree with me.
and C is B.
C is B. It will agree with me once I actually delete that paragraph. So these are the pieces that critical area wants to see specifically in the sections related to critical area. And they wanted it to be sort of split up between what the standards are and what the procedures are. So you see the standards in section 4 and you see the procedures in section 5. And then you see a new section, 7, which is conditions and mitigation. And I think that is all. Well, and then there's also there's one other change on page 10.
On page 7,
Yes.
weather on D
dang.
is the other weather.
It's the other weather, yes. You're right. Any other questions on
Does
this?
anybody else have any input? Revisions?
All of this goes to the Board of Appeals for review, right? Ending their section of the code. The answer is yes.
Yes.
Your answer is yes.
I mean, it is,
I mean,
right. So yes, we could have put these all of this into the critical area ordinance. The reason I went through doing this to the Board of Appeals ordinance is because if I was a member of Board of Appeals and I wanted to know what I needed to do, it would make me much happier to be able to constantly refer to this document than say, I need this, now I need to go over here and look at this. Now, so that is why I did it this way. Certainly it is critical area regulations, which are your purview. That doesn't mean that the Board of Appeals, you cannot ask them to, provide their comments, but they are sort of requirements.
I think it needs to go to the Board of Appeals. Them to look at it and see what we're changing in there.
Mhm.
That's what I think.
It would be nice out of courtesy to let
Right.
them.
Yes, it would. So we can send it over to them and show them. But this is one of those things I don't think critical area is going to compromise on. Yeah.
Well, perhaps then as a courtesy, we'll send it to them, and you explain via memo, Sarah,
Mhm.
why you've orchestrated the document in this manner and that the changes that have been identified are strongly recommended by the commission, and that you just didn't randomly decide to
Mhm.
change their rules and regulations.
Okay, I will do that. So your last piece that you have is definitions. Don't think there's any changes to that. I just wanted to, since you had the rest of the document, I didn't change anything in here, but you had the rest of the document, so I wanted you to have everything for this.
Does anybody have any comments, revisions, edits to the definitions?
I haven't looked at.
So we look at 9B. Back here. I'm a little, and maybe it's just me, I'm reading it, but it just seems a little bit confusing again on adverse impacts resulting from the granting of the variance shall be mitigated as not less than by planting site per square foot of the variance granted at no less than a 3-to-1 basis.
Where are you?
She's back in, not in the
I'm
definitions.
sorry.
She's in the
I'm
Board
sorry,
of Appeals document.
I'm in, yeah, right. I thought we were still there. I'm going
What-
over and over.
What page?
9B.
9B, it's not a page.
It's on page 9 if you numbered your pages.
Adverse impacts?
Yeah. I just wording of B. And if adverse impacts resulting from the granting of the variance shall be mitigated as recommended by the Chesapeake Beach Planning and Zoning Commission, but not less than by planting on the site per square foot of the variance granted at no less than a 3-to-1 basis. I think I have the gist, but it's not clear to me. Is it? But not less than by planting on the site per square foot of the variance granted. Okay, can you say that? Can you just say it to me without me?
It is from the model ordinance and it is a bit much, but I think they wrote it the way they wrote it intentionally. So when there is a variance and there are adverse impacts from that, then you are going to recommend mitigation. But you cannot recommend mitigation that is less than 3-to-1 for the size of the area granted, and it has to be on site.
It has to be what?
On site.
On site.
On site, right?
Mitigation, okay, so adverse impact resulting from the granting of the variance being mitigated as recommended by the Chesapeake Beach Plan. I would think there should be a period there, and then I think it should start out, mitigation must not be less than
Or can't be.
the square footage of the variance granted. No, I'm still confused on what this means. So in other words, the mitigation the variance may not be less than
3-to-1.
a 3-to-1. So then, okay, I think there's just too many words in here is why I'm confused. How can you say that then? What do you?
I think they probably had this discussion and this is what they came up with, right? Like,
Sad.
This,
Right.
this is not a readability clause,
I mean,
Like,
I
this
should
is not
look
at
it
an
up 3
eighth
times
grade
and
level.
understand
understanding.
so,
it. Okay.
I mean, you could make it an I, like Roman numeral 1 and Roman numeral 2, right? Like, so adverse impacts resulting from the granting of the variance shall be mitigated as recommended by, then I, not less than planting on site per square foot of the variance granted. No, it doesn't. It's hard to rewordsmith it. What it's saying is you can make them mitigate at 4-to-1, but you can't make them mitigate at 3-to-1, and you can't let them mitigate offsite, right? It's a bit,
So you could end it with commission,
Yeah, I think it should be.
and then
period.
it could say the planting on the site per square foot of the variance granted is no less than a 3-to-1 ratio or 3-to-1 basis, but then you just start the new sentence after commission. The planting
Right.
on the site per square foot of the variance is granted at no less than a 3-to-1 basis.
After commission,
Yeah,
start a new sentence.
but remove, but not less than by, remove that,
right?
Less than.
then by, and then start with the planting on the site per square foot of the variance.
I guess how many square feet the variance allow?
Okay, then that's what it should say.
Am I correct that that's what that means?
That is what that means.
Then it should say, it should say.
You want to change granted to
Well,
allowed?
Granted
On the
site
Must equal the square footage meant something.
on the
Because, but the
site.
3-to-1 is referring to the square, that's
Right,
where
right,
it gets
right.
complicated.
Planting on the site per square foot is granted.
It's because it's per square foot on a 3-to-1 basis, like those have to stay together, and that's what's making it, and that's probably
It's hard to
why
make it sound.
it's probably why it is how it is.
So then maybe we're trying to divide the variance. So the planting on the site per square foot of the variance is granted at no less than a 3-to-1 basis.
Planting on-
Because it's important to have the square foot of the variance granted, right?
Yes.
So,
Could we reword it and say the planting must be no less than 3-to-1 basis on the site per square foot of the variance granted? Would that make it clear?
Initially, that sounds right. Listen,
It-
again, I
it
might
almost-
get
it
confused.
almost sounds like what we just had here.
But I know what I
Instead of
understand.
saying planting, can we just say mitigation? Why do I have to use the word planting? Mitigation, shouldn't it? Because it, mitigation of the site, on the site. Maybe we should start out with the variance granted.
How about-
well, I like what Kelly said. The planting is granted at no less than a 3-to-1 basis on the site per square foot based on the variance
Just
granted.
shuffling.
Right.
Sometimes, but shuffling
But,
changes
but I'm not,
emphasis.
but I'm not
sometimes.
sure it did.
Or the planting on the site per square foot of the variance granted is given, must be no less than a 3-to-1 basis.
Per square foot. Per square foot.
Okay.
I think that's how it should be. So say that one more time, 'cause I think that's what it will.
I was typing.
Planting, so say that planting.
The planting must be.
Do you want me to read it? I
Yes.
typed what you said. I
Okay.
didn't know. So the planting on the site per square foot of the variance granted must be no less than a 3-to-1 basis per square foot. So it says per square foot twice. The planting of the site, oh no, that it's right to say per square foot twice in that case.
But you didn't really change
On the
anything.
site per square foot.
Start
of
with the
variance.
mitigation
That's-
is calculated
be
as follows
no less
or
than-
something.
I think
Like
that,
an intro, an intro to
I
that
think
sentence.
that's how it should go, really. That's probably how it should be.
I didn't.
Just the mitigation
The
shall be
mitigation
accomplished
shall be accomplished.
as follows.
uh,
And then I guess it'd be a semicolon.
by
Then I think you go the way that Kelly went, maybe, just have the intro clause, semicolon, and then, does that make sense to you?
Wait, say it again. Say it again.
The intro clause that they said, and then the planting must be at no less than a 3-to-1 basis on the site per square foot of the variance granted.
And then just with my little
Which is-
clause in the front, I think that makes sense.
I'm going to
We
read it.
Or you could put based on the variance granted.
The mitigation shall be accomplished as follows. The planting must be at no less than a 3-to-1 basis on the site per square foot of the variance granted.
Okay.
Does that sit better? Does that explain it to you and say, do the same thing?
It does the same thing to me. I mean, I have to interpret weird, interesting things, so I can interpret both of them.
But we
So
have
yeah.
not changed what is to be accomplished.
No,
Make sure that we haven't.
You haven't changed the intent.
Right.
Would you get less comments or questions the second way versus the first way?
I don't know that, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't know that people are actually reading this and asking, they're just asking for the answer.
And then did you get all that was commented on? It was a lot of,
So if you want to change it to that, you might want to just make a motion on which change, or on this change that I typed.
addition to the front of that then?
Well, I think she put that in there. Mitigation shall be as follows.
If,
Did you put that in there?
right, so do you want me to read it and you can make the motion like by what the planner just said or something, and that can be your motion? So, the, 9B, after a new period that exists after the Chesapeake Beach Planning and Zoning Commission, we will delete all of that and add the sentence, the mitigation shall be accomplished as follows. The planting must be at no less than a 3-to-1 basis on the site per square foot of the variance granted.
Do you have a second?
Did you make a motion?
Make a motion.
Yeah, I don't.
I can't make a
motion,
motion.
but
Okay, we're gonna-
I can just read you information.
The language is presented by the planner is the motion.
One of you has to make the motion. I think,
Okay.
yeah.
I make a motion to accept the language presented by the planner.
I second that.
All right, all in favor?
What's the language presented by the planner?
You just
Just
read
read
it.
it.
I can read it again. After the new period that comes after by the Chesapeake Beach Planning and Zoning Commission, everything else is deleted, and the sentence is added that says the mitigation shall be accomplished as followed. The planting must be at no less than a 3-to-1 basis on the site per square foot of the variance granted.
Okay, we have a second? Yes. All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? None opposed? It is approved.
On C, can we go down to C? Is there a reason to use the word greatest possible distance, or do we want to say the furthest possible distance? Or is greatest used for a reason? It says new or extended structures or lot coverage shall be located the greatest possible distance from mean high water, or is the furthest? I'm trying to figure out which is more relevant, or doesn't matter.
I'm guessing that Critical Area Commission chose the word greatest
Rather than furthest.
rather than furthest. But that does not mean you can choose the word furthest instead of the word.
That's just me.
Are we done with this document? Any further changes, revisions, edits?
I have one question, and I know this is a question about the Board of Appeals issue, but it always bothers me. And it's the term, and I know that's back in the definitions, but unwarranted hardship always concerns me when it comes to the Board of Appeals action. Like, is a hardship, I mean, I guess it's just really vague. Right. I'm just at number 4C,
It's one of the,
or, B, C, D. I don't know which page it
one
is,
of the
but
reasons.
whenever they use, they always use
for
unwarranted hardship.
appeal.
That always concerns me that it's not more specifically listed as what hardship really means.
I guess because it's
It's
another
subject-
unknown.
It's a subjective situation.
Right.
I guess that's what always concerns us about. how to grant
Well,
the variance.
they have to determine
Yeah,
what is if it is a hardship. But
yeah,
certainly a hardship is subjective.
And they have legal counsel.
Pardon?
They have legal counsel
Yeah.
to help them with that.
Anything further? No, we've moved No, there were no changes to definitions.
Yeah, I was looking down here. We use CAC throughout the document, but in the definitions, we have commission means the critical area commission for the Chesapeake Bay Atlantic Coast. There's also another acronym that I can't find. You were talking
Forest.
CBCA, and that's not in the definitions either.
We took it, well, so Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Commission is the old name. So they're just Critical Area Commission now. So they asked that we remove the CB from in front of
So
them.
it's dated.
So that's CAC now.
Yes.
So
So you want me to
but
change?
it's not in the definitions.
Okay. So. Right, I see the acronyms are in the commission.
Larry, were you just referring to number 24, the commission? Is that what you were making reference to?
Page 2, page what?
On page 3, it says commission means the critical area commission for the
Right.
Chesapeake and.
Right.
Okay. So the Chesapeake and Atlantic coastal bays has. Okay,
So that should probably be CAC means critical area.
Did you want to make like a general motion for me to include any acronym in the document in the definitions? Because I can do that. If that's what you guys want.
Larry, do you want to make a motion in regards to that the commission means critical area commission, not Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Commission?
I was gonna say, if you make a general one for me to put all the acronyms in, then I'll put all the acronyms in. I think that's what you're saying. You want done,
Yeah.
yeah.
Put all the acronyms in. I make a motion, to put all the acronyms.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any other comments? Reference the definitions?
Oh, I do have a comment on, I guess, number 78. I imagine that the chapter number will be included at some point.
Yeah.
Number 60?
Minor buffer management plan. 78.
90, on item number 60, the K factor, I think it should be changed to Kathleen factor, but no.
Wait. There's a Kelly on here too.
right.
We got to share.
You're going to say Kelly, aren't you?
It should be called the special K factor.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm sure we
73
can send
needs
that
to
for
be-
legal review.
Pardon me?
I'm sure we can send that for legal review.
73.
73 needs to be populated. Oh,
A
there's a
what?
couple. The
The
chapters.
chapter.
with-
73 and 78
Yeah.
both are.
We need 73 and 78. Major buffer management plan, minor buffer management plan. Are they even mentioned in the management plan?
I will check them because I'm actually not recalling a place where it says minor or major in ours. I think
Can you
it
have
just says
major?
buffer management plan.
Minor. None on, I guess, number 92, non-water dependent project. I see the asterisk, but I don't see where it's referring to?
Oh, it was referring to something that was completely irrelevant. It was like a different area, and I removed it from the document, but I didn't remove it from the.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess 122, obviously, the chapter number will be put in there as well, just to keep up with that theme.
89, where it says new development. After redevelopment on the second line, in paren, I think there's a space issue in front of development.
Yeah, or maybe. It's weird. Questionable.
Yeah,
I'll check it out.
same thing as 90 of before waterways,
And activity.
but I think they might all be changed once
Yeah.
you hit them. Okay. And again, 105 refers again to the Chesapeake Bay critical area. 105.
Oh, yeah, it's because their own definitions are old, so they contain their old name.
And I just want to note to the chair that, the vice chair, that riffraff doesn't appear anywhere.
No, I guess it doesn't.
Riparian
habitat. Well, actually, that isn't what I was talking about, the rocks. not
I
the
know.
habitat, But yeah,
The riffraff.
yeah, well,
That's funny.
you know what? That's what those rocks are to me. Riffraff.
And are there any other? Any other comments, revisions? Okay. So now we need Sarah to vote to forward this to the commission.
Go through the official process to send it. Are you guys going to have a public hearing?
Pardon me?
Are you going to have a public hearing first, or do you want to send it and have things happening concurrently?
I thought it went to, the trajectory was it went to the commission first, then they came back, and then it went to the town council.
Well, so you can have a public. I think the last time you did it, you had a public hearing
Oh, this is, and
as
then we
well
would have
at the
it
planning commission level.
again, would be with the town council.
You could do it with the town council to save time and get things moving more quickly.
I'm all about it.
Potentially.
So I thought it goes to CAC simultaneously, and then we would
They
hold
have-
a public hearing with,
It might be a good idea because of their process. Yeah.
so we need to make a
Motion.
motion to forward it to the CAC as well as,
Officially.
and then set up a public hearing
Mhm.
with town council.
If you so choose.
Okay. Well, I make a motion that we send this document to the Critical Area Commission as well as then set up a joint meeting with the town council. Do I have a second? Any discussion?
I think. Logistically, how would we set up a meeting for all of us?
How does that work, Ms. Clerk?
Well, I guess we would have to, I can contact the town administrator and say that we have recommended that the critical area, that the document is sent to the commission, and that we would like to set up a public hearing with the town council, and then she can recommend it, if that's feasible or not.
did seem to
We
think it
wait
was
until We
feasible.
get it back from the,
I think that it should. I don't know their exact timeline. There are dates. I would have to check them. Mhm.
Might be easier for us to have our own.
Hearing on the 24th.
Get a time where forum could be.
Can we do the public hearing on our 24th? Our next meeting in July?
I don't know that you have to wait for it to come back.
Because what happens is it goes to the commission, then it comes back, but we don't review it again. It then goes
Right,
to
it's-
the
it's
town council to
Going to the town
approve.
council. So you're taking in lots of input, right, all at the same time, right? And if the public or the commission make large, substantial changes, which I don't think they will, because we've been through this process, right? Then you might need to make those before it goes to the commission for approval, or sorry, to the council for approval. I'm getting all my C's mixed up.
Okay, so
Or the council can make those changes when it comes back as well.
okay,
But
so
they'll
the,
probably want your recommendation.
so the trajectory is this goes to the commission.
Mhm.
Then we, the planning and zoning, can in July
Mhm.
have a public hearing, and the public will have the opportunity to comment on the critical area
Mhm.
document,
Right.
as well as public, and then we can see, hopefully we could see the changes from the commission.
Mhm.
And then it goes to the town council unless there's, and then the town council could decide with the document that we have
Mhm.
in conjunction with the commission's return, as well as the public hearing,
Mhm.
if they want to modify the document.
Right. But yes, and so the process we've been through with all this back and forth with the staff is meant to minimize the need for changes.
Okay,
further on,
so,
yeah. Right. Unless the public recommends something to y'all that is a big change and you decide to make it, you should be okay to, have your public hearing on the 24th, get the comments back, forward that all over to the council for approval, maybe in September.
well,
It's an ordinance, so not that quick, but yes.
I know this document has to get back to the commission, and hopefully we can, I think it's more efficient to do it, to plan the hearing in July, but I will make a motion, and if,
Don't we have to have a clean copy for the public to see before they have a public hearing on it? How can they make comments and judgments about a document they don't have that's clean. We've just made a lot of changes. It's going to possibly go up to the commission and be changed again. So we can't have a public hearing without having a clean copy. I just can't imagine that.
Or isn't the document going to the commission as, without all these edits? It's going in the format or with the changes?
So I am going to take everything we talked about tonight. First, I'm going to make the all caps be lowercase. I'm going to get rid of
You're
delete the
gonna
strike throughs.
remove-
I'm going to make this a clean copy, right? Basically make this a clean copy based on the discussion and motions we've had this evening. That would be what would go to the public for the public hearing. It would be what goes to the commission, based on all the motions you made, and based on my discussions with staff, I don't see the commission coming back with a major change. So it should be fine for you to have your public hearing. The document will be clean, to be starting into critical areas process with a clean document, and have it ready for the council when they come back in September. I think that is reasonable with all the work that's been done.
So the document, when the public hearing is scheduled for our July meeting, the document that's being sent to the commission is not going to show the changes that have been in black capital letters or blue. It's all going to be a clean document, and the town's going to be able to review it,
Correct.
a clean document. So
Correct.
they
So
will
it
have
won't
one.
be instrumentally changed by the commission, you don't think?
I do not foresee large changes. I think we have addressed all of the large concerns.
And we won't make any changes based on the public hearing. Why have the public hearing?
Well, you might make changes based on the public hearing.
Changes will have to go to the commission.
Right. So let me look into the process because there's a pre-application process. And then, so there may be a way to keep things going and there might not be. But it would be good to get things moving on the same train
By doing what?
by starting the ball rolling with the,
By holding a public hearing and then sending it to the commission, or by sending it to the commission and holding a public hearing separately on two separate tracks?
so I think you all should make a motion as to which way you want to go, and I will do whatever you all want me to do on that.
Question, so comments made by participants in the hearing, it's possible, maybe not probable, but possible that something might have to address something or change it. And then wouldn't we then again have to, like, every time you do it and change it, you've got to do the whole noticing hearing again? No?
No. If you have a public hearing and then you make changes based on that public hearing, you don't have to have another public hearing.
And then it goes to the town council. Unless there's major summary changes to the
Right.
document
Right.
on July 24th
Right.
at the public hearing.
Right.
It is going to the town council for approval.
Mhm.
And they can amend it as they see fit based on,
Right. It's an
the-
ordinance, so they have to have a public hearing.
any further discussion?
It's really a concern that we have a problem right now in our town with procedural issues that, that we've been reminded of by our largest employer. I think we have got to do this right. And I don't know exactly if we need to talk to our town attorney about this, but I think we really need to know what we're doing, because if we don't have this public hearing at the proper time, we could have some issues down the road with nullifying this entire document. I mean, it could be a problem if we don't do this process right. We've already been through this once in the last 5 years, so we've had an issue. So I think maybe if we could talk to Mr. Pounds or even Ms. Wall about this.
Well, could the town planner speak to the town administrator and say, this is what our plan is, that to send it to the commission, the public hearing, and
So I've talked with the town administrator about this.
so I guess my point is saying, I understand about getting these things right, but I also, the Board of Appeals right now is in 26 hours of testimony. And, it just seems like we've reviewed this document ad infinitum, and we're going to have the public hearing, but we're never going to be able to move it along. And the town council certainly can adjust accordingly. I think that, the planner has talked to the town administrator. If they determine that the document, that procedurally, we are not putting forth the document in the best light or in the most timely manner to get it a proper review, I think they will weigh in. But I certainly don't think we need to be in a closed session or have another meeting to move this along.
Can I make a comment, Madam Chair?
Yes.
So we have a public hearing July 24th.
Mhm.
We go dark August. That means the changes in us reviewing the comments wouldn't happen till September, correct?
I was just wondering if you would, you have a public hearing, right? It's at the beginning of the meeting. Could you then make the changes on the 24th? I know it's important you to keep moving this forward, right? That's what I'm trying to do. So is there a way to have that public hearing? You guys have discussion about the comments and then direct any changes that you want to see to me. And then that goes to council
That's a
and
good
commission.
plan, depending on how many comments we have at the public hearing. I mean, if we have a lot, then, and that takes up most of the meeting, then we wouldn't be able to cover everything. But I think that's a plan.
Well, this should be the only agenda item on the July meeting, is the public hearing, the discussion afterwards. I mean, that's the only way I believe that we could possibly get through it.
Okay.
In one meeting. But I don't anticipate, I'd love it if the room was packed with residents and their comments, but I don't anticipate that. But,
And the public has, been able to come
and
throughout the whole.
the Commission Clerk, with the posting of the hearing, July 24th, it's posted for 2 weeks. Would the public have the opportunity with that posting to have the document to review? Should it be back? Pardon?
You want to know when I can have this document back?
No, I'm just saying, when it's posted about the public hearing, so the public walks in and they've never seen the document, they have the opportunity in the posting for the 2 weeks of the 15 days, is the document going to be included in that so they could actually review it? So when they
Yes.
come here, they have, they can speak specifically to what their concern is.
I can have the document back to y'all no later than July 5th, possibly earlier.
On that note, is there a way, and I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but people are invited to email their questions so that we could also move maybe some things more expeditious, we would know a little bit ahead of time.
On open July 5th. It's a Friday after the 4th.
Is there a way to put this on the website?
So it currently is on the
The
website.
draft,
The draft
well,
is on the website.
so you could modify, make all the changes
Clean copy
And
could
put it
be put
on-
on the website.
on the website?
So yes, I can
with the-
provide Administrator Wall with a clean copy at the absolute latest, the 5th.
Well, I
Probably-
think it should be in conjunction with when it's posted about the public hearing. I think that could be your timeline.
That's
So when the document is posted, that there will be a public hearing on the critical area, commission document, it appears,
Right.
you know.
And that's to the 24th, 2 weeks before the 24th is the 10th.
Yeah, so so to my mind, unless somebody has a different feeling, you have to July 10th to have,
Mhm.
with the announcement of the public hearing, here is the document. And before, as with the comprehensive plan, people had the opportunity to give written remarks. There was an email. If they have that same course, then we're anticipating questions and possibly, prior to the hearing. So do you need a motion to say that same thing?
Do we need a motion? I don't know if we need a motion.
And when will you be able, do you know?
I can get it to you sooner if you need it sooner. Just tell me. Oh, so you need it before so I'll
So
get
that
it-
could be the,
what's today? Why don't I get it to you by Tuesday at the latest? The 2nd. Is that
July
okay?
2nd, so it could go out on July 5th?
I'll try and get it to you before then, but. Okay, so I'll just make this my priority and get it to you Monday morning. Okay.
so that's if you get it July 5th. And
No, she's
then
gotta
that,
have
No,
it
I'm gonna get
July-
it to her July 1st.
She has to put it in by July 2nd at noon, the newspaper to be published on the 5th.
and the 5th would give it every calendar day.
Oh, you don't need the whole document by the 1st.
So if it's posted on the 5th, that's 20 days before the 24th.
Yeah, I'll have it to you. Yeah.
Okay. So
Mhm. Yeah.
are we set?
I think we're set.
Do we have a motion? Okay, it is 8:58, I think. No, 8:59. Obviously, that concludes our new business. So do we have a motion to adjourn or to continue?
A motion to adjourn. We just got a severe thunderstorm alert starting now until midnight.
Do you just want to go to commissioner comments?
Does anybody have commissioner comments to offer?
Can I just make one? When
As long as it doesn't refer to the critical area.
It actually does. No, I just wanted to comment on Commissioner Brown had a point about Anne Arundel County not having, their own unique critical area ordinance. And when I was talking to the people up at the commission, what they said was that a lot of, and I've noticed this too when I researched other towns, is that they just use the model. They don't make any adjustments or changes on it at all. And that they were proud of us because we actually went to the trouble of making changes and made it unique for our town they thought that was quite, impressive. So not everybody does make all these efforts to go forward and do this. So pat yourself on the back.
You're so.
So anyway, that was my comment, is that, you know what,
that's
it's a
your
lot of
comment.
work, but I
Yep.
think that, there was my comment right there. Proud of yourself.
Any further comments? Do I have a second for the adjournment?
She moved and seconded. I thought I like.
I second it.
Okay. We are adjourned. That's from the town
She went,
planner.
she went to butter. I know now. She softened us up with this. This is what she did.
You were in Ocean City too, so you know there's a candy kitchen.
Yes.